Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Nathaniel Smalls, and the reason why I'm here today is because of the injustice that is going on in Oakland, not just in murdering, but illegally locking up folks. I'm here today. I passed out flyers to some of you regarding Dwayne Ewing and Kevin Barnes, who has been locked up for 3 years for a crime that they didn't do. And this situation, police brought in planted evidence, and they used a DNA that they never had. This is a 1994 case that they just wanted to put 2 guys in jail to close this case. And these 2 guys are not the 2 guys that they're looking for who did this case. Ladies and gentlemen, to make it short, I have some more flyers here. And if you will read these flyers and see, this explain it, exactly what went down in this case. Some of you already have the flyers. And we're asking, and if you have time, you read on the bottom of the flyer, you see the date, January 18th, that's when they go to court. These guys been in jail for 3 years and they hadn't been to trial yet. Just sitting there, 3 years, hadn't been to trial yet. And just sitting there, each time we went to court, they moved to another date, another date. It's ridiculous that we have a system, we have a good old boy system here in Oakland. Right here in Oakland, we have a good old boy system where everybody is connected together. They're playing games with people's lives, they don't care. They're putting poor people through hard times, and it's not right. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, it's time now for us to look into our court system. We got a system here that is illegally sending people to jail for things they hadn't done. There's a lot of games being played there in the court of Oakland. And it's time, ladies and gentlemen, for a change.
Hi, my name's Yvette Salarka. I'm a national organizer with a coalition to defend affirmative action, integration, and immigrant rights, and fight for equality by any means necessary. BAM! It's been 2 years since the murder of Oscar Grant, and what that's meant in this past 2 years has been defined by the strength and the power of the movement here in Oakland and throughout the Bay Area to fight for justice for Oscar Grant. We accomplished what has never been done before in this state's history, which is the jailing of a cop on the job for killing any person, much less a white cop for killing a black man, which happens and has happened for far too long and far too often. And for that, our movement needs to recognize that it was only the actions that we took. It was only the militant, mass, direct action of the marches and the demonstrations and the explosiveness of what we did in downtown Oakland that scared the powers that be enough to finally track down Johannes Meserly at Lake Tahoe, find him, and finally bring him to jail. And anything we achieved after that was because of the power of that movement. And while we accomplished that, we also know that we were not able to win justice. What does justice for Oscar Grant mean now, 2 years later? Here's what it means for BAM. 1, it means Johannes Meserly should be behind bars and they should throw away the key. There is no way that that murderer should be set free next month, 6 months from now, a year from now. And we have to keep making that clear and raising that demand.
Yes.
2, it means that the other police officers who were involved in the murder, the accomplices to the crime, in particular, Tony Peroni, needs to be charged and jailed and brought to justice.
Yes.
3, it means that the Fort Police should be disarmed and disbanded because they never should have had guns to begin with, and the actions of Johannes Meserly were not random, but were in fact simply the worst expression Jones for a long time. And you have to give it to that man for having kept himself alive for as long as he did, and for the Jones family for refusing to be forced out of Oakland and out of their city. The police are conducting a so-called investigation of the murder, and they've even admitted that they have no credibility and have asked the FBI and the Federal Department of Justice to conduct an independent investigation. We can have no illusions, either in the police investigation or the federal investigation, even if the feds do step in, because all that's going to be is a federal level cover-up of more police murders. We've got to watch and demand a public publication and a public issuance of the final investigation of the two cops who killed Derek Jones. And we've got to be ready to mobilize and to march again. So everyone let's make sure that those of us who are already in contact with each other, let's continue to maintain contact. Those who are not yet part of any lists, definitely talk to me or other members of BAM. We're happy to get you on our list, because we've got to have and be ready for an emergency response protest and march when we find out, which I'll bet you anything, that those cops are going to be exonerated by that report. We've got to be ready to mobilize, and we've got to continue and conduct and build our independent community investigation of those police officers and fight for their jailing, because there can be no double standard for the police. Their policy is not to protect us. It's a policy of protecting the people with power, the people with wealth, and trying to maintain the status of racism and inequality in this society. But we showed what can be done with the fight for justice for Oscar Grant, but we also have to do even better than that from here on in, to fight for real justice for Oscar Grant, for Derek Jones, and to stop further victimizations by the racist police. Thank you very much.
You know, as I was thinking about this this morning and reflecting on 2 years ago, and what reminded me was, and some of you may know, 30 years ago, I was involved in a tragic case where a young man was shot and killed by the police, Melvin Black, who started a movement at the time that ultimately has continued to this day with the citizen review boards in Oakland and some of the other activities that took place. And what that means to me is, out of every tragedy, there presents an opportunity. And that opportunity is to move the social agenda forward, 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps at a time. And Oscar has represented that movement forward. All of you here, I've been involved in hundreds of cases, police cases, over 20, 25 shooting cases. It has only been a couple in that entire period of time that has galvanized the community. Melvin Black was one 30 years ago, and now Oscar has done it now. And so the opportunity has presented itself to move the social agenda, to improve the quality of lives of others, to improve the quality of policing in this community. It has not always been positive. In fact, much of it has been negative. But each case presents that opportunity to improve the situation. And Oscar's case has done that in many ways. Some may not appreciate the positiveness that has resulted in terms of how BART has had to address itself to police issues, but it clearly has. And there's a new police chief. A lot of the policies and procedures have been rewritten. I know, because I'm involved in that process of evaluating this. I will assure you, none of that ever would have happened. It just would not have happened. And even though I strongly disagree with the arguments that are presented by the defendant in this case, I think it was not truthful, to be kind. But notwithstanding that, the justice system isn't totally fair. And it is true, it's an uphill battle most of the time. And sometimes there's a breakthrough and sometimes there isn't. But you always have to keep pushing forward. And each case presents that opportunity for us to push forward and improve the quality of lives for those who will come after us. Remember, when I was in school, the Black Panther Party was the entity that was causing and raising the agenda about police brutality. When that took place, you would not have people here who would be able to protest. In fact, what came out of that was Huey Newton. He was prosecuted You know, and so now we have a situation where the officer himself was prosecuted. It did not result in the kind of verdict we thought it should have, but he was prosecuted and he was sent to jail. And there will be other cases where we hopefully, that the kind of community spirit that has been demonstrated here will galvanize around other cases. Derek Jones' case is here, but let me tell you, I've been involved in 10 cases since Oscar Grant's case. 10. That's 10 families. That's 10 families who have suffered just like the Oscar Grant case. The difference is there was no video camera.
That's right.
And 6 months before Oscar Grant's case occurred, there was a Jody Woodfox case. Jody Woodfox was a young man who was shot and killed, running away, shot 3 times in the back. There wasn't any community support around that. I took that case on because I was outraged about that conduct. And I'm outraged whenever I see young people being shot and killed for reasons that make no sense. No sense. And so now we're at a place in time where we can go forward and move and take what has happened here and use that as a positive social step to improve the quality of policing, improve the quality, and to ensure and minimize, if we can, the deaths of other Oscar Grants, Derek Jones in this country, and certainly in this community. And that's our charge. And I would say to all of us that when a tragedy occurs, the opportunity presents itself to take advantage of that and do some social good from it. There are a lot of organizations out here trying to do good work. Certainly Cephus and Minister Muhammad are really doing great work. There are other groups. All I would say is get involved. And to coin Frederick Douglass again, when he was at the end of his career and a young person came to him and says, "What should I do now, O Master, in the future, to move the social agenda?" He said, quite frankly, agitate, agitate, and agitate. And that's what our responsibility is, to agitate. Thank you.
My name is Peter. I've traveled 2 hours here to listen to what's being said and also to share 3 or 4 minutes with you. Many of us are familiar with this topic. I personally have 2 very good friends of mine, a married couple, that were executed in Alabama in the last 10 years for killing a law enforcement officer in self-defense. A law enforcement officer who was actually taken off the streets by his own force. I have some questions. Who can identify the true enemy? Who will and who can show us the means of maximum impact of our collective effort? The enemy has been an illusion we've been born into with our subservience to mammon. The religions have lied to us hundreds of years back. It is given in Ephesians, like the name of the church that she spoke of, that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the principalities and powers of the darkness in the air. It coincides with a prophecy from a Native American named Black Elk, who said, when the power of the wind is returned back to the people, we'll be in the midst of the greatest of changes. I always hear people say, God bless America, but the God this America has been serving is mammon, the God of greed. It is time for the people who have been through a refiner's fire to rise up and bless Almighty, not the lesser God of greed. We have the power to do this. Our children today have been taught to pay for air. The people that are my age were taught to pay for water. That's insanity. We're all in service to greed. The power is to understand that in the eyes of Almighty, it has always been given from the time of Moses and explained by Yeshua to this moment, that when he said, as you do unto the least of me, was always a reference to the animals. When it was given not to murder, it was always given to the animals. And I say to you truly, no matter what you see with your eyes, listen more deeply in your heart. For it is not law enforcement per se that is the problem. It is the problem of all of us together that allow for the termination of 15 million animals a day. All that blood, and the blood of the earth with oil. In a nation where here in Oakland, in 1904, was the very first electric car. The power we have is the power to change it all, and by standing together.
But Dan is a good friend, an attorney who has been a part of the movement for years.
Yes.
Have seen many changes and struggles and yet can share much wisdom and knowledge about how a movement continues. Dan.
Thank you, Uncle Bobby. Thank you, Jack. I wasn't prepared to say anything today, but I'm very happy to be here today. And like all of you, my heart is heavy with the tragedy that has come to the Jones family and the Grant family, which is undeserved. And when I hear my friend Jack talk about how sad he is, I want to say to Jack and I want to say to everyone, is that justice for Oscar Grant, justice for Derek Jones is unlikely to happen in the court system. It's unlikely to happen at the hands of the police. It will happen because the people of this country stand up and demand change. Demand that the system of racism and classism and male chauvinism, which props up the status quo, change and surrender power. When I listened to Minister Muhammad speak, I was reminded of the words of Frederick Douglass, a great leader of the struggle for liberation in this country, who pointed out the power does not concede without struggle. And it's, to me, the legacy of Oscar Grant is all of us here today, and the friendships and the relationships that we've created, and our strong certitude that we will see this struggle to an end, so that the police of the United States, who are here by and large to defend and maintain the status quo, will see their power diminished and replaced by the power of communities and people in their demands for equality and justice for all. And I will be here as long as I have breath within me to continue the fight with Uncle Bobby and Jack and everyone else. Thank you and Happy New Year.
And of course, we've been standing for 2 years pointing specifically at both the accused and at the system.
That's right.
And I can say without hesitation that when I've seen banners that have said the whole system is guilty, I can't say that I disagree. When slavery was practiced, that was a system.
That's right.
It's not over.
That's right.
So when we look at prisons that are full of our men, women, and children, that is a system.
That's right.
And when we look at the practice that people are being killed by law enforcement, I read today's Tribune. It said the homicide rate in Oakland has gone down, but it coupled the article by declaring that killing of police officers nationally, not here, has gone up. And I was sharing with Brother Wilson why they report that now.
Yeah.
It's because there are those that are seeking every avenue of support financially and emotionally for law enforcement. So for them, Johannes Meserly being convicted was a blow to the esprit de corps.
That's right.
Well, I don't care about their esprit de corps. I'm concerned about the spirit of Wanda Johnson. I'm concerned about the spirit of the Jones family. I'm concerned about the spirit of the people that suffer. So we will always point out the wrong, but this is a vigil.
That's right.
So we didn't want to take this time to go through all of those matters, but we'll be back in town hall. Praise God. Thank you. We'll be back in town hall next Saturday. So those that desire to go through the political issues, Saturday 4 o'clock at Olivet Church, we welcome all to join us.
I'll be there.
Thank you.
I want to share with you guys a horrible case that happened on December 11th in Vallejo. There was a young man out there who was a student at Napa Valley College, and when I later came to find out that he was a very important part of the BSU. So it really touched my heart from my roots 40 years ago at the BSU, that he was murdered in cold blood by the police in Vallejo on a Saturday afternoon when he and his friends were out on Sonoma Boulevard in Vallejo videotaping a
a music video, and he was providing security for these young folks, because he was a student, you know, a returning student in his 30s. He wasn't a really young man. These were teenagers, and they were doing their thing, making a music video, and he was providing security. And plainclothes police pulled guns out and shot and killed him in his back. They shot him 2 times and killed him. The police accused him of having a gun, pulled a gun on him, but how the hell you gonna pull a gun and get shot in the back? Explain that. The police confiscated the videotape because that probably had the evidence of those murderous killer cops on it. They confiscated the videotape. They arrested all of the people that were involved in making the video who witnessed this murder. When they shot and killed Guy Giroux, he was laying in the street for 45 minutes pleading for his life. They would not call 911. They wouldn't get an ambulance. They wouldn't take him to either one of the 2 local hospitals in Vallejo that do have trauma centers. After 45 minutes of him pleading for his life, they took him to a hospital in Concord, 25 minutes away. So we don't know. This is what we know. But we don't know who the police are responsible for the murder of Guy Giroux. We do know that Guy came to the Bay Area because he's a native of New Orleans, and he came here because of Katrina. He is a Katrina displaced person. And so his mother came out 3 days after he was murdered to get his body and take it back for the funeral. The police will not release the body. The police won't even let his mother view the body. The police won't release the coroner's report. The family's trying to raise money to get the body back to New Orleans and have a proper funeral, pay their last respects for their beloved son.
One of the saddest notes that I got, which goes to show the shame of how this brutality is affecting the young kids, was that one day she was riding with Jack here, and she saw the police. And she told all the other kids in the car, duck, police. Duck before they shoot us was the word she said, something similar to that. You know, so it just goes to show just how these young kids are affected. Yes. They see the policeman and they say, duck. Something's wrong with that. Amen. Something's wrong with that. So it really behooves us to continue this movement, because it is our children that are affected. Grandchildren that are affected. So it is our job to bring justice to the society so that our children and our grandchildren cannot grow up in this fear of the police. And it's going to take us to bring that change about. Amen. So again, on behalf of the family, with much love, we know that we wouldn't be at this point had it not been for you. So we thank you, and I mean seriously thank you, because I know that my single voice or Jack's single voice alone would not have been heard. You have brought life to us and have given us much hope that this sick, sad police brutality that we experience can actually begin to be changed. So from my sister, on her behalf, she says thank you. From me and the remainder of the family, we all say thank you. I know from Jack and the other side of the family, we all say thank you. And I know today, connecting with the Jones family, they all say thank you. Because we know that in order for us to get any change, it depends on you standing with us.
Okay, brothers and sisters, I think it's probably time for us to wrap this up. And I just want to say thank you all for coming out today. The Oscar Grant Committee, the Oscar Grant family, the Derek Jones family, all thank you. And we'll be calling on you again, because this is not the end of the struggle. This is the beginning of the struggle. Each one of you are an organizer. And each one of you are out there organizing the people. You're your own courage. You're looking the man in the face and you're speaking truth to power. Now, I just want to say one more thing. That the Oscar Grant Committee is also organizing next weekend. We're taking a contingent down to Santa Cruz. Those of you who don't make Sister Elizabeth's America Need to Know meeting could come down with us to Santa Cruz to support Bradley Manning, a young GI that had the courage to out the murder that's going on in Iraq, to out the fact that American Army is killing people for fun in Iraq, and he brought that out. And the WikiLeaks exposing the lies and deceit and murder that's going on, the assassination squads, and the United States government trying to suppress both these men and this organization trying to suppress the truth. We're not going to allow that to happen. The Oscar Grant Committee is organizing to support a rally down in Santa Cruz. So we'll be mobilizing carpools. Anybody wants to go, get in contact with us. We're taking our posse down to Santa Cruz to join their posse there. Power is in the streets, brothers and sisters. Thank you for coming out.